Hi, everybody, Gray Panthers and guests. We're currently 11, but we usually get people trickling in for 20 to between 20 and 30. I'm really happy, oh my gosh, that this monthly speaker meeting came together. Carol, my co-convener, and I will be divvying up the moderator tasks. Um, um, and I just put the program in the chat. Now let me read it for those who don't have chat. So we begin 1:30 with welcome and introductions. Then we'll have some board news and communications. Then our featured speaker, Lisa Sitkin, who's I'll introduce at 1:45, and I think that'll be robust. There's a couple people that I'm hoping will join because they have had experience with housing scams and frauds themselves. So at 3 p.m. or when our speaker and our discussion is done, then we'll go into more sort of action updates and reports from our committee and team coalition liaisons. Then we can have some new business endorsed, which we don't have plans for making a decision today, but there are some announcements about endorsements that I guess is new business. And so Carol, why don't you start us off with our experiment in meeting guidelines. The board is using these meeting guidelines, but we want to run it by members. Hey,
We're getting a few more people now.
yeah. So actually, if you bring that up or however you want to bring it, let me finish welcome and introduction. So first off, welcome again. Hi, Helen, Pam, Patrick, Leon, Cheryl, and Robert, our treasurer. I wanted to say that yesterday was Maggie Kuhn's 120th birthday. For those who don't know her, she's the founder of Gray Panthers and the New York City Gray Panthers chapter, which kind of inherited when the national group that she created and served on closed. The New York City group had a birthday party for her yesterday. I mean, she's long passed, but if you have a chance, check out videos of her online, Wikipedia, and it's always good to know where a group came from so we can see how we're getting better, or what we can learn from that. Okay. Hi, Julia. Good to see you. Okay, then Carol, why don't you share the board agreements with the group?
Okay, the meeting guidelines are one mic, meaning that one person speaks at a time, step forward, step back. Each person should share and then allow time for others to share. Keep individual remarks to under 3 minutes. Respect each other, respect ourselves. Accessibility. Support our co-conveners and timekeeper. And these were the meeting agreements that we came up with for the board meetings. We've been wanting to do them for regular meetings, and we can take comments from the floor about changing those or adding to them or accepting them as they are for the general meeting guidelines.
And are you complete on that, Carol? Because I wanted to follow up.
Yeah, that's it.
Can I suggest that if people have comments or suggestions, feel free to put them in chat for now. This is going to be brought up the next two speaker meetings, and we have our annual member meeting and board elections in October. And so that would be a great time for any further conversation, discussion about, meeting guidelines or other things people feel would make us work together even better.
Yeah, it would be good to have them at a large group when we do that,
So great.
after people have trickled in.
We don't really have a timekeeper. Oh, Helen?
I just wanted to say I like the start of this, and I appreciate the time you put in to put something together to get us talking about this. So thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Carol.
I
Board-
missed the word that you said you missed. You liked, Helen, you liked talking about, what was that? Publishers sounded like.
I liked how this is starting with
Okay.
giving us this
That's fine.
opportunity. Yeah, I really appreciated
That's
that.
fine, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
for meeting guidelines or member guidelines when we
Yeah,
gather.
and that you're going to introduce it over several meetings so people can participate. I really appreciate that.
I'm glad you could make it today, Helen.
Could we have it in writing and an email or something so we can?
Sure, we'll send it out.
Yeah, I like to read things. They stick better. And refer back to them.
Carol, you were also gonna bring up nominations. Are you prepared for that announcement?
Yes, just a moment to bring it back up. Okay, we have current board members are Betsy Morris and Carol Crooks, co-conveners, Cecilia Cunningham, David Blake, Helen Walsh, Christy Martin, who is stepping down, Maria Saul, Rains Cohen, who's the database coordinator, and Robert McGarrion, who's the treasurer. We're looking for a secretary of the board. You can contact Betsy at 510-842-6224 for more info.
There's some earlier language about the process. I'll just say,
But I'll read it.
Yeah.
Board of Director nominations are now open and may be made until the annual election meeting, October 22. Any Gray Panther member in good standing and up to date on annual dues may nominate, vote, or serve on the board.
and there's no limit, particularly. We don't have a quota, but we need at least 5, which we're good for, which we're already, and we're still finalizing whether any board members would like to step down. But for now, that's the status. So were there any questions about that? And get in touch if you're interested in serving or would like the job description. And I'm gonna capture my brain. Let's see. So this is part of our bylaws that we have an annual cycle. September is when the board announces any slate or recommendations that have already gone through the process of meeting with us. And there are a couple people who have expressed interest. And we'll talk about that in the Tuesday meeting. I'm sorry, September meeting. But members can make nominations from the floor on October 22nd. So if you're interested but not currently a voting member, hey, start building your building your support. Let's see. I think that's it. Okay. So I think there is a bunch of news and requests, but I think I will just announce one of them. This was at our board meeting earlier this month. We voted to endorse or sponsor a film premiere in San Francisco called No Place to Grow Old. And we actually looked at the trailer, which I recommend anyone look at. It's a film that the San Francisco Public Press and a couple of sponsors they have in San Francisco, and it's it's a very thoughtful film about three seniors who find themselves for very different reasons homeless at over the age of 65. The film was made in Portland, kind of a sister city to what Oakland or San Francisco and Berkeley has as a place where unhoused brothers and sisters, unhoused neighbors have set up camps or are still being generated by high rents. So we'll tell you more about that film if send out the info. It's being shown September. I think it's the last Friday in September, and there's a panel discussion. The focus, and it's at the Roxy Theater. So well, I'll put this on the calendar, but our logo will be one of the sponsors because unfortunately the San Francisco Gray Panthers is kind of on a hiatus. They had some challenges with among their board, although Art Persico, who's often joined us, is still doing things at the national level. So I think that brings board news to a close for now, and we'll come back to other reports from members after our speakers. So let me introduce Lisa Sitkin, who is a supervising attorney. Is that the proper title? She is from the National Housing Law Project, which I had not heard of. But she can say a little more about that and her work. But she comes highly recommended from our member Carol Morozovic as an expert and presenter on homeowner and maybe other kinds of rental housing fraud as well. So would you like to say a few more words, Lisa, about who you are and how we can know you?
Well, first, thank you for having me. I'm happy to know about the group, and I am a almost lifelong Berkeley resident. I grew up here and I still live here. So it's nice to present to my neighbors, even if it's virtually. So as Betsy said, I am a supervising attorney on the staff of the National Housing Law Project. And the organization is longstanding. We've been around for actually over 50 years. I haven't been there that long. And we were created actually as a support center when the whole sort of infrastructure of legal aid in the country was getting started. In addition to direct service legal aid organizations and agencies, there was at that time federal funding, no longer, for what are called support centers that would be sort of hubs of expertise about certain issues, and could be available to the frontline legal services agencies and attorneys to help them with case consultations, with trainings, with keeping them up to date on things. And as time progressed, we also got very involved in policy advocacy. So sort of translating what, a legal aid attorney might be seeing on the ground to take that to our partners and think about it and propose policy changes in Sacramento and in DC also. We are currently bigger than we've been. We have attorneys and other staff in different states around the country and a small office in DC, but our sort of headquarters main office is in San Francisco, although my office is here in my dining room. Originally, the project was really focused entirely on tenant and rental issues, and is really sort of a hub of expertise. We also put out a manual that legal aid attorneys around the country use on federally subsidized rental housing programs. So Section 8, public housing, if you're familiar with LIHTC, the tax credit program, all of those are kind of in our wheelhouse. But during the foreclosure crisis, they expanded, I wasn't there at that time, to also work on issues related to preventing foreclosures and what I have taken to call homeownership preservation for low-income homeowners, and often that it ends up being a focus on senior homeowners, but not exclusively. So I lead a very small team, me and one other person at the project, who focus on those homeownership issues. And I came into that job after spending basically the entire foreclosure crisis, starting in 2008, working in direct services with homeowners in the Bay Area, trying to help them prevent foreclosure and hold on to their homes. So I've kind of taken that 9 years or so of practice experience, and I now do a lot of training, policy work, and case support. So I consult on people's cases. So what I'm going to talk about today is, broadly speaking, homeownership preservation. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I see that as encompassing in terms of helping folks actually keep their homes and keep their homes in their families. There are so many directions that could go, but I'm keeping it narrow. So, one possible path one could take is talking more about social housing and community land trusts, and that is a way to preserve and affordable homeownership. I'm not talking about that today. I'm not an expert on that anyway. I'm very interested. But what I am going to talk about is helping folks who, own the home, remain owners, and, as I say, be able to pass that along if they want to heirs or to whoever they want to pass it along to. Could be a land trust. And then I'm going to sort of hone in particularly on the wide variety, unfortunately, of scams that we see targeting senior homeowners in particular, and just kind of go through an overview of what those different scams look like, a little bit about what to look for, and then I haven't completed my links, but when I give you my PowerPoint after this, I will have a bunch of links for resources and where you can report things. I'm perfectly happy to answer questions along the way. It doesn't seem like that's maybe your etiquette, but if people have them, it doesn't bother me at all. So it's very informal. So do I have sharing ability?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
We should.
Great.
I did want to, as you begin, I just want to say that this issue really came to our attention before COVID, due to thanks to a group called several groups in Oakland that of Black homeowners who had lost their family home or their parents, willed home to them. And it raised how vulnerable we can be, even with a will, even with a trust. So I don't know if everyone here remembers that. I think only a few of us were at that in-person meeting, 7 years ago. But I just wanted to offer that as context, that there's a lot more going on than meets the eye. Okay, thanks. And
Looks like
here you are.
Dirk might have a hand up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No?
Besides protecting homeowners, does your group ever protect renters who get evicted?
So many of my colleagues work on issues related to protecting tenants. And we work with a lot of legal aid agencies that represent people in eviction cases. Our organization doesn't do what we call direct services. So we don't take on individual clients. We're sort of like a little bit of a think tank, I guess you could say, but support center is really what we're usually called. So there are people I work with who know a lot about those topics. I know a little about them, and I'm happy to try to answer questions if they come up. But this is really focused on homeownership, since that's my particular area of expertise.
Thanks.
And thank you, Dirk. And Lisa, we have some folks who have limited vision, or it's helpful if you read what you really want us to know from the slide.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. So let me start up. So this is an overview of what I'm going to be talking about. I sort of gestured toward it, but I want to talk a little bit about what homeownership preservation is. It's much more than just preventing foreclosure. That's a pretty narrow piece of it. I'm going to talk a little bit about special risks for older homeowners that many of you may be well aware of. So we'll see if that's new or not. I want to focus a little bit in on mortgage-related problems that homeowners encounter, because that's a big piece of what I work on. And in that section, Betsy, I will also talk about or actually, I guess it's in the first section. I will talk some about the successor, the heirs kind of issues that we see, maybe in both of those. Then, as I said, we're going to talk about all these different varieties of scams targeting homeowners. It's kind of horrifying how many different versions of them there are, and they all kind of overlap. But it just seems that every time you think you've sort of dealt with one piece of it, there's kind of a whack-a-mole. They come back and have some new scheme. And that's been going on forever, but really, really ramped up during the foreclosure crisis, unfortunately, when a lot of people were in great distress and were very vulnerable. And the scammers have kind of kept at it ever since. And then I'll just talk about some resources and where you can report. And I might have some questions for you at that point too, because you may know more than I do about that. Okay, homeownership preservation. So I kind of divided this into two parts, because usually people think of this as being about when there's a crisis, somebody's facing foreclosure or has gotten scammed or something, and you have to clean up this problem, this mess. But I think of it as starting well before there's actually a risk to homeownership, to think a little more holistically in terms of being prepared before that ever happens, and laying, solid groundwork. People, are at all stages or levels of preparation. I think in this way, I have been a homeowner for a long time and haven't checked all these boxes myself, I will say. So, it's a work in progress, but these are the things that I think we all who are homeowners wanting to hold on to that precious resource need to be thinking about. So obviously understanding current but also future costs. So for mortgages, being clear about what the terms of a mortgage are. Is the interest rate going to go up? Is the payment going to go up at some point, and planning ahead for that. Similarly, with property taxes, because of Prop 13 in California, we don't have rapidly escalating property taxes the way people do in other states. But there can be reasons that taxes go up nonetheless, and they do go up at least a little bit every year. So that's something to keep tracking. Homeowners insurance, we are obviously in kind of a crisis at this point, a crisis everywhere, certainly in California, and those prices are going up. I don't have solutions, but being aware of what's happening and what the trends are, and knowing that in order to hold on to the home and protect that investment, you need to actually have an insurance policy that you can afford and that will renew is an important piece of this. And then, of course, maintenance and repairs. My elderly parents, who also live in Berkeley, have a lot of deferred maintenance on their house, and makes me quite aware of the toll that can take, and the way that it can sort of erode stability of homeownership and ability to stay in the home too. Obviously understanding the household's financial situation. And I know this may seem sort of an obvious point, but I was always very struck, and I think it's kind of, in some sense, human nature for a lot of us, but when clients would come in who were facing foreclosure, when I was doing direct services, with how kind of little solid grasp people had just of what their financial situation really was. There's sort of a day by day or week by week, and some people are totally all over it, and some people just want to bury their head in the sand a bit. But being prepared for any risks to homeownership, I think, requires having a really solid understanding of what the financial situation is now and where it's headed. If somebody's retiring, what is that going to do to cash flow and things like that. And then estate planning is also a part of this. I have had so many clients and so many case consultations involving families where the homeowner passed away, and maybe they had a will, maybe they didn't. They definitely didn't have a trust, which in California is in a lot of ways kind of the best vehicle for this, to avoid a lot of costs to your family later and complications and delays. So estate planning, I think people steer clear of, because nobody likes to talk or think about death, or most people don't. And also because it sounds like it's going to be expensive. There are increasingly some lower or sliding scale, lower cost or sliding scale, and sometimes even free estate planning services for like simple estates that can allow someone to do the planning up front that really makes things so much easier for their family that they want to leave a house to. It's also really important because if someone passes away while there's still an outstanding mortgage on the house, in order for the heir to be able to communicate and get information from the mortgage servicer about that loan, and to know what's going on and be able to deal with any problems that come up with the loan, they need to show that they have title or a claim to title, and that requires that the original owner, do some estate planning so that it's there in the paperwork, and the heir isn't kind of starting from ground zero. So that's a really important part for the kind of long-term intergenerational kind of passing of a home. And a big concern, particularly in BIPOC communities, a lot of Black families who I worked with for a variety of reasons did not have access to or information about estate planning. And we just saw so many houses lost to that, really, when it could have been prevented. So it's something that I've been pushing to have more of these services available. And as I said, there's some uptick in that. And then the other piece of this these days is disaster preparedness, which I'm not great at myself, but as we know, fires in particular here can be a threat, and having both insurance and, you know, other preparation for that is part of preserving the homeownership. So the kinds of crises that we see that are threats to homeownership are when there is, you know, a change in financial circumstances. That can be a drop in income or increased expenses. That can drive then a mortgage delinquency, which can lead to potential foreclosure. Also, a lot of people, you know, have a precarious hold on their home because they've been victimized by a scam. And sometimes those scams follow from the financial hardship. They're in distress and vulnerable, and somebody who says, I can give you cash up front, you don't necessarily read all the paperwork. So a lot of people who come into legal aid offices looking for assistance with holding on to the home are in that situation. Another thing that folks don't always think about is that there can be non-mortgage judgment liens. So if there are outstanding debts or lawsuits that somebody won against the homeowner, they can sometimes get that reduced to a judgment from the court that then gets recorded as a lien on the property. And in certain circumstances, the creditor or whoever has the right to collect may actually seek to foreclose because of that and take the house. There are some defenses to that and homestead exemptions and things, but it does create real issues for people. And then, of course, natural disaster, which I'm not going to say a lot about, but that's, you know, we've dealt a lot with colleagues down in LA who are working with the folks, you know, in the wake of the fires in January. And it's quite heartbreaking what the decisions that people are having to make and the kind of displacement that we've seen. So for older homeowners, they are in many ways kind of have a bit of a bullseye, I guess.
Yep.
And very much a target of scams. And some of the reasons for that are often they've been in the home for a long time. And for those who are in Berkeley or in the East Bay in general, you know, property values have really gone up over time. And that means that they probably are sitting on a lot of equity, which makes them a very attractive target for a scammer. Many homeowners, although they have a home and have this asset, which may be worth a lot, are on a fixed or limited income and have limited assets. And that puts them in a position where the main sort of source of wealth is the house. And so offers and solicitations that involve kind of taking value out of the house in order to do X, Y, or Z or have cash are, you know, it's obvious why those are attractive and why people get lured into them, because they need some more cash. As I said, deferred maintenance problems, isolation can often cause older adults to be susceptible to abuse, and that's both from kind of outside scammers, but also from family members. We see many issues come up with older homeowners whose grandkid or niece or nephew, whoever, someone in the family, their kid, you know, introduces them to someone who's going to give them this great loan and take care of everything and get them out of foreclosure and all these things. And it ends up being kind of a vehicle for that person to suck money out of the house, or to, you know, take away ownership or control of the house in some way. So that's unfortunately quite a frequent occurrence. Cognitive issues, whether actual or just perceived, I think also kind of make older homeowners seem like a really good target. And I don't know if you think that there are other sort of characteristics of older homeowners that make them vulnerable, but I just leave the list open if anyone has thoughts on that. Betsy?
Just if we paused, if there's someone with, you know, we've had people who multiple issues in their marriage, late in life, with their partner and themselves. So it feels like and not enough money to have a personal lawyer, and it's more complicated than legal services usually handles. We have a person who joined us, you know, supporting member a few months ago, who brought up some ghastly, you know, concerns. And I maybe wonder if you might address, this isn't a scam. This is just people get reverse mortgages or line of credit to support themselves as we get older, what with the fixed income. So maybe you'll get to those.
Yeah, I do talk about, I have reverse mortgages in a miscellaneous list of other scams because they're not always a scam, but they very easily can act like one.
Legal shenanigans.
Yeah. So just to hone in on mortgage related problems, obviously people for various reasons may miss payments, and I don't want to take a lot of time on this, but wanted to just let people know, to the extent that you're not familiar with it, that there is, you know, a very specific timeline. Whoop, someone at the door. In California, there's a statutory scheme that governs foreclosures. And the main thing to know about it, I'm not going to go through all the steps, but the main thing to know is that, first of all, under federal rules, which we hope will stay in place, no foreclosure activity can be initiated, no legal activity, which means recording what's called a notice of default, can happen until someone is at least 4 months late. So just in terms of people having a sense of like what their timeline is, if they've missed payments, how much time they have to resolve something, or, excuse me, just a minute. Aaron, can you go on the porch? Or, yeah. Anyway, so it can't start for 4 months. And then in California, we have what's called non-judicial foreclosure. So the lender does not actually have to go to court in order to initiate foreclosure. They just have to record a series of documents according to a certain schedule, and then they can basically schedule an auction of the house. There are complicated reasons why that is, and there was a trade-off that to some extent benefits borrowers, but it does mean that things can happen without people really being clear that it's going on. They get notices, and ultimately there's something that actually gets posted on the door, but I think for such a big thing to happen as a foreclosure, people sort of expect there will be more process or a court involved, but they're not. So the lender can initiate the foreclosure by recording a document with the county after at least 4 months of delinquency. Then they have to wait another 3 months before they can take the next step. And the idea is that that would be time to try to reinstate or work out some kind of modification or other accommodation that would bring the loan current. Then they record a notice of sale, and then that has to be posted on the house at least 20 days before a sale can occur. So basically, it's at a minimum an 8-month timeline from when someone first falls behind on their mortgage. And I just think that having that kind of window in our awareness is helpful. Loss mitigation that I refer to here on the slide is the general term for the back and forth between a borrower and the mortgage servicer when the borrower is behind and they're trying to find some kind of arrangement to bring the loan current again, hopefully. And that can mean changing terms of the loan, like interest rate, or extending the length of time for paying back. And sometimes, especially during the pandemic, people who were having income interruptions would go on a brief pause, or sometime many-month pause, called a forbearance. And then when they had that many months due at the end of that, that would get kind of tacked on to the end of the loan, and sort of zero interest on it, but it would have to be paid back at the end. So that can look a lot of ways, but that's what loss mitigation means. And then there are a lot of problems that really I put squarely in the mortgage servicer's court. There are a lot of communications challenges, both issues when, for example, there's a successor or an heir and the servicer won't talk to them, or they just communicate very poorly. I mean, as anyone who's looked at a mortgage statement or a letter from a mortgage servicer probably knows, there's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo, a lot of jargon. They're not written in a way that's clear, and sometimes they're just wrong and inaccurate, or they say something and then you call and they say something else. So a lot of issues arise just because of that. There can also be, billing and application of payment errors. There can be errors with the escrow account where they're collecting payments for taxes and insurance. And that can get screwed up in various ways. And then the other thing that goes on kind of behind the scenes is that, you may have a loan that's serviced by NationStar or ShellPoint or something, but these companies, there's been a lot of change and merging and buying and selling and going out of business in the past couple decades. And the servicing rights, the contract to service your loan and collect payments and everything, get sold and get transferred from one company to another. And that process is not smooth in most cases and can also cause issues that then have an impact on the borrower. It should be that they just let you know and you start paying the new servicer, but there are often problems. And then, as we've been alluding to, successors in interest or heirs often have challenges when there is a mortgage on the house, either because the original owner or they themselves, after one source of payment and income has passed away, have fallen behind on the loan, and they have to do this loss mitigation and talk to the servicer and get things back on track. Or sometimes they just have trouble getting their payments, applied and taken correctly. If somebody can afford the loan, who's a successor to the house, there's nothing that keeps them from simply continuing to make the payments. They don't really have to do anything other than that, but we do see that servicers can cause issues and, again, be unwilling to talk to someone There are some federal rules about how that's supposed to go, but again, if somebody can't show that they are the successor, so there isn't, a probate case open that shows them as the beneficiary, or a living trust that now, is going to transfer to them, or they're not, jointly on title. Sometimes it's a spouse. They can have a lot of trouble just being able to communicate with the servicer. Betsy.
Could you just move your chair about 2 inches to there you go. You were behind your name and it's harder
Oh.
for people who,
Sorry about that.
no, lip read. So there was a request, but
Okay.
thank you.
Is that better? Or am I still behind it?
No, I
I
think
can't see how it is, so.
it looks better to me.
Okay.
You could even move a couple of inches more to the left, I think. Yeah, that's
Okay.
hopefully that works for whoever.
On my screen, I'm now behind my name, but if people
Oh.
can see me, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. So let's go on. So here is our catalog of scams. So the first category, and a lot of these kind of overlap, but just for purposes of listing and talking about them, the first I would call foreclosure rescue scams, in quotation marks. Sometimes it's also referred to as mortgage relief assistance. And these are the things that really just exploded during the foreclosure crisis. There were just all of these businesses and conglomerates that, got into the business of basically defrauding people, saying, we'll help you, you're in foreclosure, we're going to help you in one of, several different ways. Just pay us money. And then they might string them along and do a little bit. They might do nothing at all, but they would just basically take people's money. These can involve attorneys, realtors, real estate investors who come around. They often, as I say, charge an advance fee. And in California, once somebody is in foreclosure, any foreclosure consultant, if that's what they call themselves, or somebody who's saying we'll help you get out, cannot charge an advance fee. They can only charge after they have performed the services. So a lot of attorneys, for example, usually take a retainer fee, and they're not allowed to do that either. They are supposed to do the work and then they can charge. And that came out of just the millions and millions of dollars that people had stolen from them, basically, by these outfits that said, we're going to help you, and then did very little, made things worse, or did nothing. Often what they will do is say that they are going to handle all the interactions, which they usually call negotiations, with the mortgage servicer. And I put negotiations in quotation marks because in these cases, the mortgages, there are rules that whoever actually owns your loan in the background has about what can and can't be done to, lower your interest rate or allow you to repay over time or things like that. And those are the rules that the servicer has to follow. They have a contract with the owner. So when somebody says, I'm going to negotiate with the servicer, I am always on alert, because it means that they're trying to make it seem like they bring some great insider knowledge or expertise or something to these conversations, when in fact they tend to be about sending in some papers, giving some numbers, saying, yes, I can afford that, signing a form. It's very ministerial, really. Sometimes they tell people to redirect their mortgage payments to the scammers. So they say, just stop making your payments, or, if you're behind, but you want to try to start making them again, send them to me. And then they just take that money. One of the things that they used to tout, I think they're still doing it, I haven't seen as many these days, but was called a forensic loan audit, where they would say, oh, you fell behind on your mortgage, but the real issue here is that when you first got your mortgage years ago, there were all these legal violations committed by the lender, and we can get you out from under this loan because of all of these violations. So pay us $5,000, $7,500, and we'll do this forensic loan audit, which sounds very official, sort of like CSI for accounting. And then they come up with these reports that are very, I mean, you could just get one off the internet. They're not real specific to anyone's loan generally. And they identify all of these violations, which may or may not be accurate, usually not. But one, they don't then actually offer to help you do anything about it. They just charge you to do this report. And two, in most cases, even if there are violations that go back to when somebody took out a mortgage originally, most of those violations basically become stale. There's a statute of limitations, so they can't really do anything with those issues once more than 3 years has gone by since somebody took out the loan. So I always know it's a scam if somebody has a loan that they got 22 years ago and somebody is offering, you know, a $7,500 forensic loan audit. That's just going to be of absolutely no value to anyone. Sometimes the attorneys who are involved in this type of thing promise or guarantee these amazing outcomes of litigation, and say they can get you your house free and clear and all of that. And as with so many things, if it sounds too good to be true, it's too good to be true. That rarely, if ever, happens, and is not something that an attorney can ever really guarantee in terms of the outcome of litigation. Another thing they'll do is file kind of a skeleton or give you the paperwork for what's called a pro se or self-represented bankruptcy filing. Really dangerous for people to go into bankruptcy court themselves. There are lots of booby traps, and it's very technical. Lots can go wrong. Also, once somebody files for bankruptcy, it limits their ability to do so again in the future. So unless it's really, you know, a sort of legitimate bankruptcy attorney who's willing to actually be on the papers and file and work with somebody is involved and is shepherding it through, it is almost certainly going to do more harm than good to somebody. And the reason, you know, people do file these when there's a foreclosure the next day, because a bankruptcy can stop that. So, you know, sometimes it's just the Hail Mary thing that somebody does, but there are a lot of downsides to that. And my hope always is that somebody is able to get real advice and help much earlier in the process, and not sort of be in that position. Another kind of scam are deed and title scams. So these involve convincing a homeowner to basically sign over the property, sign over the deed. Often these days, what we see is they comes with some kind of promise that the owner will then be allowed to buy the property back in a good deal. But then actually that person who has ownership of the house actually evicts them or starts charging them exorbitant rent so that they can't actually afford, and just makes it impossible for them to stay in the home. And it turns out that there's nothing enforceable that allows the owner to get their title back. That is happening a lot. Sometimes the scammers even will forge the homeowner's signature, working with a shady notary. So one of the things that's advised is, you know how we're always told to check on our credit report, you know, once a year or more, even, to make sure that nothing funky is showing up there. Similarly, it can be a good practice to check the property recording. So for those of us in Alameda County, so in Alameda, there is an online access to the county recorder, and you can see if something has been recorded against the property. And if somebody is trying to take over title or steal your house, basically, the only effective way for them to do it is to record something. So it's worth monitoring that, especially if the owner has come into contact with somebody who sounds like they were trying to embroil them in some kind of questionable scheme. Betsy.
The DA's, the DA, Pamela Price, set up a trigger warning so that if, okay, maybe you might speak to that. I know you'll get to solution.
No, go
I
ahead.
thought it was
Go ahead.
timely.
Yeah.
Well, those of you who worked hard on her campaign or supported her, fought the recall, might know that she set up I would like Gray Panthers to take credit, because she came to one of our meetings where we talked about these kinds of concerns about frauds and probate. She set up a flag would go up if a senior, if the home of a senior changed title, they would at least the DA's office would at least try to call you to let you know that
Or I
happened.
think they sent out a notice. I don't know if they did written notice there. I know in Emeryville,
right.
I think you and I talked about that. I don't know if it's still in place, but during the foreclosure crisis, Emeryville adopted this similar thing, where the city was sending out sort of monitoring for notices of default for foreclosure, but also for changes in the ownership of a property, to let people know in case, they didn't. Which is a really useful thing, and is helpful because then people don't have to do all the monitoring. But it's not because it's available online. It's pretty doable. Linda, did you have? Yeah. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Okay. My second Zoom meeting of the day, the first, I ran the law office of Jeff D. Hoffman. We sent people to you, and I've been trying to reach you for quite a while. Jeff was arrested for domestic violence and elder abuse about 2 years ago. All he's wanted is to get me out of the home that I bought, I've been paying for. Long story short, today, a judge who's never heard a word from me decided writ of possession goes to Jeff. So, yeah, I've been paying for it for over a year. I can afford my home. He cut me off without any money. I found out when you work with a spouse in California, one of you is supposed to be paid as an employee. He was billing for my time as a paralegal at $2.50 an hour. I'm not a paralegal. I was doing everything. Anyway, long story short, I got a letter from our title company that someone was trying to do something. And I called and found out that it's this person that Jeff lost about 90 grand with some boondoggle in Petaluma, this Doug Seiler. So my title company let me know. But yes, if you can give the connection to whatever Pam Price put on, and thank you, Gray Panthers. I didn't know we were supposed to pay dues. I'm negative income, but I have saved. And
no one's required to pay dues, but if
I
you
want
want
to
vote.
I'm going to be 76 on the 29th. I'm not taking a dime with me. I can afford my home. I'm supposed to have gotten spouse support. Jeff is claiming poverty.
I'm sorry, Linda.
Yeah, TMI.
Linda, I'm so glad you could join us
Yes.
and reconnect. I'm going to put, as Lisa had said, she's not a practicing attorney anymore.
Yeah. I don't need one.
I'm going to put her email, if that's okay. I'm going to put it back in chat, and then you can follow up later if that's all right.
And there are other resources locally
Yes.
who may be able to help.
Yes,
I'm really sorry to hear that. I remember his name.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's still using the website, but
So-
yeah, I don't want it to be about me. I just needed the link for the county thingy. That's all.
Oh, well, I will. So what I'm going to do is after we finish here, I am going to share with Betsy this set of slides, and it will have lots of links on it. I have to still add some of them in, but it will include that. Thank you for that reminder.
If you have a link or someone has a link to which part of the DA's office, please put it in chat if anyone has that. I don't
Well,
know.
it's the county recorder that where you can look yourself too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Great, thanks.
Yeah,
Lisa, where are
lots
we
of stuff
in
go
your,
on with it.
where are we in your presentation? Are we halfway through or should we?
2/3 probably.
Okay.
Maybe a little more. Are we okay on
Folks
time, or
can
you want me to
hold
speed up?
on questions. I will hold on my comments as well. Thanks.
Okay, I mean, it's fine with me, but I want to abide by whatever your timing is. So the other thing that sometimes is like a variation of these deed and title scams is that the scammer will tell someone, oh, and this is often to stop a foreclosure too, if you sign over the title into this trust, and maybe it's even in the owner's name, but it's some kind of weird, probably not truly legal trust entity, then we'll have the trust file a bankruptcy. It's this whole complicated thing. That, again, doesn't work. There, somebody who comes and says, I have this like crazy loophole, complicated thing that I've worked out, it doesn't work. And basically it's another way to vacuum money from somebody who is in distress. So that's just another variation. Another category we call hard money loans, and these are basically loans usually from an individual, sometimes from like a family trust or a very small outfit, who are just lending their own money. That's kind of what hard money means, as opposed to a bank or other kind of lender that's basically borrowing money to lend out. These loans are often something people go to when they cannot qualify for a home equity loan or to refinance, or like today when interest rates are so high that it's not actually beneficial to refinance. They come with very high interest rates. They have lots of fees and costs at the time you take out the loan. They are usually short term, so often there's just 1 or 2 years until it has to be paid off completely. And time after time, I see people who took out this loan basically with their eyes closed. They were desperate. I understand that, but with no plan or way to be able to pay that off or refinance or get another loan. And then they lose the house at the end of that 1 or 2 years. They have very strict penalties on missed payments. They generally don't really work with people in loss mitigation to come up with an affordable or realistic way out to bring a loan current. And because these are smaller entities or individuals who make probably just a handful of loans every year, they're often not subject to all of the legal protections that borrowers actually have under federal and California law. They get some exemptions for being small. So that means that they can victimize people even more. They're just, they're out there, they're kind of loan sharks basically. And I understand again why people get to the point where they take those loans out, but they are very, very dangerous. Julia. Julia?
Hi.
Hi.
Do I have my microphone on?
You do.
Okay. I have to confess, I'm a tenant and I haven't been listening very closely, so I'm asking a
fine.
question. I have seen a number of ads recently. If you watch TV programs for old people, they're reruns. You get all these ads directed to old people, and one of them frequently now has been about losing the title to your home. And I wondered if you've seen those ads, and did you address it? And I just didn't hear you.
I did talk about like title theft and deed theft. I don't know specifically what those ads are. I actually don't watch a lot of TV, so I get to miss the ads. But I know they're being pushed on radio, on billboards, in churches. You know, I mean, there are all kinds of places where
Well,
the
yeah,
scammers go.
yeah, I've seen those too,
Yeah.
just we'll buy your home, we'll give you cash, you don't have to go through do any paperwork and all that stuff, which is, real con sounding kind of thing. But this is a more of a warning to people
Yeah,
that
yeah.
this kind of theft is taking place.
Well, you know, I'm a fan of public service announcements that get at this and let people know it's something to watch for. Okay, so I think this is probably the second to last category of scams I'm going to talk about, but these are home improvement schemes. These are a big, big part of how people are getting in trouble and getting on the verge of losing or actually losing their homes will be when there's a door-to-door salesman or a cold call to sell some kind of home improvement. And often these days, it's been like some sort of green energy efficiency improvement, which I have nothing against. Those are great, but they sort of act as if because they're doing good for the environment, anything else goes. So the contractor will be selling someone on, getting solar panels, getting water filters, home hardening because of fire and stuff, tree trimming, window upgrades, something called cool coat paint, which I still don't understand if it is a true thing or not, that's supposed to, reflect heat away. Many things. And it may be an improvement that the person isn't, hasn't really thought about needing, doesn't really need, but whether they need or want it, they often really can't afford it. And the way it's set up is that the contractor, who's the one who's going to get the money, is involved in soliciting you for the financing too. So, maybe kind of selling you a loan to pay, him or herself to do this work. And sometimes the financing is secured by the property. So there's a lien on the property, a mortgage, a home equity line of credit. Sometimes it's something called a PACE loan. I don't know if folks here are familiar with these, but those are specifically for kind of green energy efficiency products. And they end up, they get repaid through your property taxes. So you still have to repay them. It's just now the property taxes go way up. Sometimes they are unsecured, so, very much like a credit card and don't really threaten, your ownership of the home. But even unsecured debt at a certain point can get people, in a lot of trouble financially and make it hard for them to afford the mortgage or the rent or whatever it may be. And the secured financing in particular does create that risk of foreclosure. So here somebody went to, upgrade their windows, and now they're losing the whole house because of that. These are very difficult to unwind, these transactions, even when a contractor has done nothing, or as often happens, has actually caused damage instead of fixing or improving anything. And even when we've been able to show that there was forgery on the financing documents by the contractor, they just wanted to get that money. Even then, it can be really, really difficult to unwind these. So I give a special call out to be incredibly careful in choosing contractors and shopping around, in probably not going with the folks who come door to door or do the cold calling. You want to do your own homework and find people who, come with actual, reviews or testimonials or recommendations if possible. And as for the financing, it's best to deal with that separately from a contractor to figure out how you're going to pay for this without the contractor involved at all, because that just creates a conflict of interest. Finally, some other miscellaneous kinds of transactions that can be risky. One is the We Buy Homes. I think someone mentioned that earlier, where you'll see a lot of ads for this, but usually what it is somebody making some kind of quick cash offer way below the market price. So essentially, they're stealing somebody's equity, right? They have a house that's worth 700,000 and they offer 520 or something, get out quickly, and people either aren't aware of the value or are, in distress and need the cash and so take it, but they're really taking advantage of people in those situations. If somebody wants to buy a home, wants to get the equity out and actually move that way, there are realtors. Even if the home is worth less than is owed on it, there are ways to do something called a short sale. So always worth doing the homework to find more reputable professionals to help with that transaction and hopefully maximize what you're going to get if you're selling. The other thing that's a more recent development are that we keep getting letters about here we call them home equity investments. Sometimes they're called shared appreciation products. There's a company called Unison in particular that sells these, but there are others. And they basically offer people, they kind of target people. Usually they can tell from filings with the county if somebody's, kind of in financial distress or delinquent on the mortgage. And they will come to them and say, hey, we'll give you 75,000, 40,000, whatever amount of cash, and you sign this huge stack of papers. And later down the road, when you sell your house, or if you refinance, or when you, the borrower, pass away, we will get some percentage of your home value or some percentage of the appreciation of your home value. So if it's gone up $150,000, we'll get 70,000 of that. And it's huge amounts that they take. They take huge bites of people's equity for really, what can seem at the time like a really useful amount of money, but compared to what they are going to take at the back end, really is not a good value proposition and really basically steals the equity from the home. They're very slick. They look really impressive and have all this stuff about, you don't need good credit and you don't need that. You just need a lot of equity in your home. And what that means is they're not focused on your financial situation. They're focused on the fact that you are sitting on this big nest egg and they want to take some of it. That's what these are designed to do. Reverse mortgages, Betsy talked about. People may be familiar with these, but these are a product where you can, again, basically get cash out of your home and stop having mortgage payments if you still owe on the home. You can refinance into a reverse mortgage, or you can, if you own the house outright, get a reverse mortgage to take some of that cash out. And we're seeing that there are some in the private market, there are some of these being sold even to people, usually they're for people 62 or older, but there are some products for 55 and older now that are of dubious legality. We're still learning about those. Reverse mortgage can be appropriate in some circumstances, but it really should be seen as a last resort because they're quite expensive. They cost a lot in terms of fees and interest and ongoing administrative fees. It limits somebody's ability to pass the house on or to pass on the equity because every month, unlike a forward or regular mortgage where you're paying down the amount you owe, with a reverse mortgage, you owe interest. It's just that it keeps getting added to your balance. So your principal, if you borrowed, 250,000 can go up to 600,000 over time or more, because they keep just basically deferring everything that you owe and adding it to the debt. The other thing to know about these is that borrowers have to keep up with the property charges, with the taxes, with the insurance. And if they don't, they can still get foreclosed. I think there's often a belief that with a reverse mortgage, you lock in being able to stay in the house until you pass away. And that is generally the idea, but there are things that can happen that can still cause people to lose the house along the way. And if somebody isn't going to be able to keep up with property charges, probably getting a reverse mortgage and then losing the house in not too long isn't going to be a great solution to their issues. The other thing we've seen recently is what I call extended exclusive listing agreements. There was this company called MV Realty that was signing people up. They would give them maybe $5,000 or something and sign them up to a 40-year realtor exclusive listing agreement. So anytime you sold your house in the next 40 years or your heirs tried to sell it, that realtor would be entitled to either list it, handle the sale, or if you sold it because 30 years later you forgot you ever even signed this, they could then come in and basically collect what the commission would have been. We were able to get a law passed in California that limits listing agreements to 24 months. I would have liked it to be 12 or 6, but that's what we got. And I think they can be renewed, not automatically, but in writing for another 12 months. But this isn't allowed in California anymore. So if anyone's coming to you or someone you know offering some cash up front for this kind of long-term listing agreement, that's illegal, and you should run the other way. Another kind of scams, I mean, they're endless, but the one I'll end on is post-disaster scams. So every time there's some kind of natural disaster, fire, flood, we see people posing as, FEMA staff, people, contractors coming in and price gouging, or a lot of people coming in and, giving very low offers for all cash on, let's say, the lot if the house burned down, and really kind of, when people are in a really, really difficult situation and very vulnerable, in various ways cheating them out of, if not the home, then money, or some of the equity in the home. Those look a lot of ways. We could talk about them all day, so I'm not going to go deeply into them, but it's definitely, there are lots of warnings on some of the government websites about all the different versions of them, and it's worth educating ourselves about those too. Finally, this is what I will populate with links, but these are the basic resources. There are lots, and there may be some in Berkeley that I don't know about. I've never heard of Berkeley, the city, having a way to report this. I mean, I know the DA, we could, but these are the agencies at the federal and state level that are involved in these kind of issues and would be where someone would go to report. I'll add the Attorney General actually on the state. I should have put that. And then in terms of where people can get help, there are kind of two categories. So one are non-legal housing counselors who can especially help with issues relating to mortgages and foreclosure. They are free. There's no income qualification up or down. And they are currently at least funded by and certified by the Federal Housing and Urban Development Department, HUD. And there's a way to locate the ones who are certified in your area. I'll add those links. And then legal help, as you said, Betsy, I mean, there are some complicated issues with divorces and family law and inheritance and things that arise that legal aid, basic legal aid offices may not be equipped to deal with, or somebody may be over income who has, who has a home. So I will give some legal aid options, but also a link to a directory for private attorneys who may have more specialized knowledge and abilities.
That's great. Thank you, Lisa. I'm gonna let's switch off your screen, and if people want to use gallery view to see everybody or hold Lisa, you know, in the middle, you can choose that view option. I was hoping we would get into solutions besides hiring lawyers, since not everyone has that kind of resources.
Just laughed.
Yeah, so what I do see your hand, Carol, and I just wanted to say to people a couple things. I thought we would get into ideas for solutions because what partly stimulated this topic is people during the recent Berkeley upzoning with the missing middle, which allows homes that are a single family home, depending on lot size, could end up with 8 or even eight units subdivide. You know, there's all this, there's an incentive to enable homeowners to add more capacity, you know, for housing. And people expressed to me the fear that they would get a bunch of harassing phone calls because homeowners are getting harassing phone calls or cold calls or visits, sometimes with the scam, and sometimes it's a real estate agent or a realtor who's just
could be a
wants to help
scammer
you
too.
sell. Well,
Yeah.
you know, they want to help you sell. We have a very mature real estate realtor community here in Berkeley. And I just wanted to add that another inspiration was Gray Panthers in Ann Arbor, in Ypsilanti, actually, in a Washtenaw County. The Jan Ben-Dor, the Gray Panther longtime chair and a very big activist there, told me that their county treasurer or property assessor's office, I'm not sure which, had actually put social workers on staff to be available as that kind of counselor and caution, you know, able to somewhat help people who had questions. So I'm hoping Pam White might speak about this, that I'm looking to collaborate with other folks on exploring some of those protective options.
Pam Price,
Pam White, one of our members. So,
and I would just add, Betsy, sorry to interrupt, but that the housing counselors are not lawyers and are free. And they are people who are trained both in sort of pre-purchase, helping people, counseling them before they get a house, but also in holding on to the house, including you know, seeing through this kind of scams. So
if you have those names and resources, the only folks I know is NACA, which is a national nonprofit that helps people buy homes if they're low income. I did not know they do.
They're good for some financing stuff, but I wouldn't pick them as the housing counselor, but there are other resources.
So I think I want to say I also invited all the city council members and the mayor, who is a member, and I got an email back from Cecilia Lunapara's aide, Jonah, and he said they're looking forward to hear what we recommend the city could do, you know. So I see us as having follow-up steps, you know, and I think we're gonna I'm gonna ask you to take questions. If people have a question, they can put in chat, keep it short. That's great. I'm gonna ask that we move our program, so we now have 10 minutes. And that means we'll move on to our other announcements. I mean, maybe we can push it back even further than 3:05 or 3:10, depending on how many questions. Okay, Carol, do you have a question or a short comment?
Well, first, Lisa, it would be helpful to have the contact information for the resources you just listed. And those resources do not cost people money to contact the state. Also, perhaps for some individuals to have a short statement has on the resources expressly what they do. I mean,
She's
I
going
know
to add them,
I'm gonna
Carol.
beef up those slides. I just didn't
She's
get
going to add the
link.
links
Yeah.
to her presentation,
so
and we'll try to get it back to people.
So Lisa, it's good to hear you. I brought you to the Commission on the Status of Women a couple of years ago to do a presentation there, and as a result of your presentation, I did write a quite involved recommendation to council that we passed at the Commission on the Status of Women in terms of them developing materials, particularly for those persons subject to most vulnerable to exploitation, which tends to be older people, particularly women and minorities. And it actually just went nowhere for a year. It's sort of interesting to hear that Councilmember Luna Parra's office has stated that they were interested in what we were doing, because actually council just ended up, I stated at the Health Life Enrichment Committee that the current Commission on the Status of Women, which I'm no longer on, doesn't seem to have an interest in this issue. So they referred it to the Commission on Aging, which I don't believe they've done anything with it. And so I was wondering if I can work with you in possibly developing some materials. I am going to recommend to Betsy that this recording be distributed to the council members, but this has been brought to their attention, and I would hope that you're available to maybe collaborate on some sample materials, of which this presentation could be part of that, because we were hoping from the commission that there'd be much more expansive outreach to persons who are particularly vulnerable, including places like not only senior centers, because not everybody goes there, but doctors' offices, faith-based communities,
Yeah,
etc.
no, I remember. I like that idea a lot. Yeah, I'm happy to help collaborate. I sometimes need a little bit of lead time, just because of other obligations, but I also probably would pull in maybe some staff attorneys at a local direct services group that often does workshops and stuff for homeowners, because they might be able to get involved as well.
The other thing I was wondering,
Carol, I'm
please let
sorry.
me
Why
answer.
don't you add it in the chat? Because we've got some other hands. And let's come back to you if there's some other questions.
Well, I was just going to
We're not taking extended comments,
Okay.
but
I was going to ask for clarification on Emeryville. That's all.
Do you want to answer that, Lisa? A quick clarification about Emeryville.
I'm not sure what their current rule is. I'd have to look it up. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Only because our city manager.
We're losing you, Carol. I'm going to move over to Helen, and when your signal's stronger, Carol.
I'm hoping you can hear me. This
Yes,
is Helen. And Lisa, your presentation has been very eye-opening for me, so thank you.
I think somebody can mute.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there a way to, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Much better.
I just wanted to say I appreciate your presentation. I was very unaware of a lot of this. I in particular work, as an advocate in the disability and senior communities, and I didn't know if you had any specific resources, because I have heard that homeowners with disabilities have run into issues, especially like having to build a ramp or things like that they're borrowing money and then something happens. I'm wondering if you have any also specific resources, or when we populate something, I'd be also into helping get this information out so that and make it accessible to because I think it's really important for our community to know how to help themselves and know there's a community out here of support. So thank you again for pointing us to these resources, and I can't wait to check some of them out myself. So thank you.
Thanks.
just,
Yeah, again, I mean, I'm happy to continue the conversation. I don't, in answer to the question about specific resources, I mean, there are lots of warnings and alerts and notifications on various, you know, on FTC and DFPI and Department of Real Estate and all of those, but those only go so far because they're kind of like, here, be aware of this. But I think, you know, if something could be pulled together that both gives the alert and gives information about, you know, where you can go to complain or get advice and guidance, that would be a good thing.
Yeah, because we've got blind community members, so I'm all about making it accessible for those folks. So again, in total
Definitely.
appreciation here, and being on the board of the Great Panthers, anything I can do to help as we work together on this, more than happy to add my skill sets in.
and for those who don't have visuals, that was Helen Walsh. So I'm just going to ask people to say their name at the beginning. Not so in respect for that topic that Helen brought up. Okay. Are there other questions? I see.
This is Helen. I am low vision, and I did announce my name so people would
Oh,
know,
you
but
did.
there was a problem technically, I think, and that could be why people didn't hear. And again, if you missed my name, it's Helen Walsh.
One of our esteemed board members. Yeah. Someone put their hand up, but now I'm,
Norma.
oh, Norma. Norma, do you have a question?
No.
Or are you wanting to make a comment, a short
I
comment?
think that the information that I'm going to insist or try to insist to include is that I was just reading a headline that China has 90% of the people own their own place to live.
China.
Yeah, China. Yeah, that's the point, is nobody gets it about how we've been robbed of our thinking about how things work. 90% own, and goods also, and the rents are dropping. And so are things that people need to buy are dropping in price in China now. And the other thing is, the reason that people are told to hate Cuba is that they too own their own places to live. This is very frightening to the owning class, who can't stand the idea of communism and has been making war against the Russian Revolution for over 100 years. So I need us all at least to understand how we've been ripped off and lied to, and this is from the nursery school on that we are taught these terrible, terrible ideas.
Thank you, Norma.
And thanks for all that magnificent presentation.
Yeah. Can we give whatever effects, hearts, claps, or unmute and just say thank you, Lisa? Those of you who know how to do reactions, it's a good time to unleash them. We see hearts from Nancy Stevens, applause from Arlene Hipp, hearts from Helen Walsh, Robert McGarrian, and Cheryl. We're not all shouting, but
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Norma.
Well, I appreciate your having me. I'm going to take off if you're moving on in your agenda, but you know how to reach me. And Betsy, I will get you the PowerPoint with links and resources by the end of the week.
And I'm going to delegate to Rains to get the recording, transcript, and slide packet with your links up on the website. But technically, we're on vacation. I hope we'll do it before we get back.
What's a vacation? Wait, what's a vacation?
Yeah, I know. I had a moment today where I said, oh, this is kind of a vacation, because I was sitting by a pool. Anyway, thank you so
Happy
much.
vacation.
Yeah.
Carol
Carol Mrozovic, also thank you for connecting us up and bringing this resource here. So I will not unmute, So our next phase of our work, our program is to maybe we could just say as a discussion that at another meet we could talk about next steps. So email me, call Carol Crooks, when you have a chance to talk to her. Maybe let's gather ideas. I think we've had some ideas here on follow-up, and maybe more talks. The Pam White and Candia Gandhi, who's the chair of the League of Women Voters, also Willie Phillips from NAACP, expressed some interest in like follow-up talks or informational sharing. I did not see Winston here today or Willie, but they were all invited. So we'll follow up with those two groups as well. Thanks. Okay, I need a short pause and then we'll do reports and updates. And I'm hoping Cheryl, Pam, I'm looking at names, Carol, anyone who's Arlene, anyone who's a liaison to some of our coalition partners and campaigns, please come back in a couple minutes, or at least please start your report. You could start your report now, but I have to take a bio break. Helen, I'm hoping you'll tell us a little about Barrow, and we'll, yeah. Can we do that? I'm gonna pause and go on.
While I have this minute and a half, I ask you to change your voter registration to Peace and Freedom Party. It is a party building socialism. The past 56, 57 years, registering Peace and Freedom Party allows you not to have to register in our owners' parties, the bourgeois parties, the Democrats and the Republicans. The Democrats have no recourse for us. They can do a little thingy here and there, but it's just cover. I have, I will bring voter registration forms to the next Wednesday meeting at Alacio's, if you want, and help you if you want. You can get one of those off the internet, of course. Green Party is not socialist. It's near. It's like DSA, Democratic Socialists of America. It's near socialism. I thought you were going to the toilet, Betsy.
I did. I'm very fast. Linda, I think this is a special announcement you want to make about a book.
I wanted to, oh, hold on.
But I do need to get to our reports, and then we can have announcements spontaneous from the floor, if that's all right. Okay, thanks. You're muted though, Linda. So we'll get back to you. We'll get back to you shortly.
Thank you to Norma.
Okay.
Real.
Yes.
I got a machine smuggled into Cuba during the embargo. Cuba, America, Friendship Society. We should not be afraid of the things you're saying. Thank you, Norma. And I have to go to Kaiser. Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you're recommending the book Final Draft?
Yeah.
First draft.
Doctor, I got to edit this book. He comments. Okay. He's amazing.
Murray Korngold. Okay.
Sam.
All right. Thank you, Linda, for coming back. Okay, so I see that Cheryl White, are you still here, Cheryl? Okay, had to go. but she is our liaison to Long-Term Supports and Services for All Coalition, which is actually working with Kara, and maybe Robert or Julia can, so backing up. So that LTSS for All Coalition is something we've been on for, I don't know, 4 years, working to support better wages for home healthcare workers, working on an insurance benefit in the state of California so that people can have, who are not actually qualified for Medicaid, can still get a benefit to help with long-term home-based supports and services. And Cheryl put several links into the chat earlier that I'm repeating now. So if we had chat, you can look at the state legislative targets that this LTSS for All Grassroots Coalition has, and it's now, working with Kara. So, oops. Wow. I think that's the DC police if they haven't handed over. Wow. Pause for a moment. I'm going to check on that, but it's just one motorcycle every 50 feet or yards. And I hope, okay, it's dying down. I hope it's not the president's motorcade. Anyway, so were there any reports back about Kara or LTSS for All?
What were you just referencing in DC?
Well, our president has ordered National Guard troops now with weapons to basically patrol DC's streets and for illegal immigrants or, undocumented immigrants, but also he's personally worried about the crime, even though it's at a 25-year low, and he's just doing a bunch of shenanigans to, mess with the DC, which has no congressional representatives that can vote. So DC has this special status. They do have a mayor and a city council and a police department, and they're pretty pissed off about this. So I'm hoping to actually, well, we're only here for one more night, but there's protests going on. And the department, so I heard that the president wanted to ride with the police. And I just don't know what these motorcycle police were doing. I don't think the National Guard gets on motorcycles, so I'll tell you more later offline. We do informal discussion at 3:30, usually after we adjourn. So thank you, Carol. Marasovic. So I'm not seeing Helen Walsh. You are one of our liaisons to Barrow, along with Carol Crooks. Is it possible you might make catch us up on Berkeleyans for Accessible Right-of-Ways, a group that we endorsed and signed on to work on recently?
Yeah, sure. Happy to do that. Our group has been rather busy. We're working on letters right now and letters on response to the new Berkeley bike plan in particular. There was a workshop a couple of weeks ago that we attended, and now we're having conversations in the group to pull out concerns and comments having to do with accessibility and rights of way access for seniors and persons with disabilities and families. What I'm going to do in the chat, comments are still opened. I'm going to put some information in the chat of where you can find and review the new bike plan draft. which was put out August 2025, City of Berkeley, the Transportation Department, and the date and the email, so you know who you can email your comments to. And if you also have any questions, gosh, we just created a Barrow email. I don't have it on hand right now, but I'll try to get that into the chat for folks. If you want to send in an email to Barrow, and then one of the individuals or groups that might have a certain expertise in the area might be able to help you if you needed help drafting anything. So let me go about doing that now for everybody.
So is there a website with the
That's-
latest communications?
We're starting to put up a website. We're just starting to
Okay.
build one.
Yeah.
What we did do is we put out information to the community. I'm going to go off and then grab that on which I'll cut, copy, and paste for folks. It's on my Facebook, but it gives you a overview of what Barrow is and also an email contact address. So I'll be in chat shortly with a summary of that. I'm going to summarize it with a very short, with the contact information for folks.
Yeah.
What
So I see your chat link.
What?
You want to read that for those who can't see chat?
Yeah, in the chat right now, and you can also email me directly because I don't have the Barrow email offhand. That's what I was trying to do, Betsy, is go get that information and then return back. But
Okay.
we can go this way.
Well,
With what's in the chat, it's the Transportation Infrastructure Commission new draft plan for the bicycle plan. And it's a direct link. So the link brings you direct to the PDF that is in the chat thing. If you want that information and cannot see it, I am also low vision too. It's no hesitation to ask, which is why I was trying to grab an email. I'm going to give you my personal email. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat, and anybody here can just email me and I will send that information and also the information about Barrow. Okay, so my name is Helen Walsh, HelenWalsh. You can email me for that information, and the email is B as in Bumblebee, R as in radio, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, C as in cat, H as in my first name, Helen, @Comcast.net. Put in subject the transportation information on the draft bike plan. So just put draft bike plan. And then I'll be able to find it easily.
thank you, Helen.
And then what I will do is I'll send you the same information, and I can also give you the information about Barrow and that, so you have that direct email address. Thank you for your time.
Just a quick update is that this concerns especially the fact that bicycle planning in Berkeley, and many Gray Panthers do bicycle, but that bicycle planning has not coincided with conversations and input, robust input from the disabilities community to the extent it could and should, especially around conflict points for people in wheelchairs or with blindness conditions. And I know there's a lot more nuance that I'm missing, Helen, but just
No,
for some of the newcomers today.
There is a
It's
lot
very
more
particular to Berkeley, but it could be applied in Oakland.
and other areas. So
yeah,
I
want to move on, Helen.
Yeah, I was just saying, I appreciate your attempt to help with accessibility, but in the future, don't cut me off when I'm using a screen reader. and I'm trying to get to my stuff, okay? I can
Okay.
help people, or people can make a request. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Helen. As some of you may remember, we're working with several different homeless solidarity and working groups around homelessness, and Measure W is $1 billion that the county is allocating. And our member Arlene Hip might have a few words to say. Do you, from any of the groups you're part of, Arlene, you want to give us an update? Also, Arlene, you and Carol are related to involved with the Poor People's Campaign. So if you could start with Measure W, maybe you could also speak to the Poor People's Campaign, if you wish. I didn't mean to just surprise you.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, okay. I tried the email, but it was very, very recent.
Yeah, I was out and about. Anyway, Measure W is picking up steam, but one of the biggest things, one of the things that I really appreciate is the conversation that Nikki Fortunato was very strict about setting county policy on service providers, and not only county policy, but now this is an opportunity for grievance and compliance and enforcement to come into play. So I'm looking forward to seeing what is going to become of that. Also, the second thing is the oversight committee. Now, we're already 5 years in. This sunsets in 2030, I believe it is. And we're already 5 years in from being back and forward in court. And we don't want to wait. Here in Oakland, we had Measure A1, which the oversight committee, they took 4 years to get an oversight committee established. We're already 5 years in. We don't have time to wait for 4 years.
On Measure W.
On Measure W. Yeah, I'm only talking about Measure W right now. And so one of the really interesting things, when I went to look at the oversight committee, the Taxpayers Association was on the oversight committee, and that was one of the groups that had us in court to hold up the receipt and distribution of Measure W. I really think that we have to pay attention to the oversight committee and what their responsibilities are, and how we have to make them more accountable, how we have to reporting out, so we don't wait a year, 2 years before something is done if there's an issue. I think that's like imperative. Going to the meeting, what I found out was about I know that part of the funding is to also get additional purchase, I think small, like hotels, right? And they have like a restriction on the size of the hotel. I think it's supposed to be like 48, but there's some that's like 24 rooms. And I think that they're trying to work out the possibility of buying those as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing about that. But one of the big things that's really being on a working group, I would really like to see them look at vacant buildings. Look at vacant buildings in the communities where the people have encampments, instead of taking them out of their community, leaving them in their community, utilizing the properties that's there. So that's just a few of the concepts. I know one of the groups have become one of the encampment groups have become a 501(c), and so I'm looking forward to talking to them about how this is going to roll out. They got wonderful, wonderful people that they're actually attorneys and various people, architects that are actually working with them. So it's going to be exciting to see those who are directly impacted actually designing something and rolling it out. So
Wood Street Commons,
yeah, and so
our long time, yeah.
yeah, and I just finished talking to John just a couple of minutes ago, so I'm excited to see how this is going to play out. We can't do with the same thing that we've been doing,
No.
because it's broken.
Do you
It's
want
just
to say,
broken.
do you want to say a few words about the teach-in at Laney College? That's
Okay,
open to
yeah, I
everyone.
just opened up the flyer.
Okay.
I'm ready. On September the 25th, this is a save the date. On September the 25th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., the Laney Poor People Campaign is having their fall teach-in. The subject matter is They Steal Our Survival and Our Say, Unite Against Cuts, Cages, and Control. And like I said, this is a save the date because the location is to be determined. They're working it out now, along with whoever the speakers are going to be. It's going to be a smaller panel this time, which I'm really glad about because it gives an opportunity for more discussion. After the presentation, it gives an opportunity for more in-depth discussion. So anyway, be on the lookout. Put it on your calendar. September the 25th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's going to be hybrid. So if you can't be there in person, you can also catch it online, and I will shoot the information to Betsy. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I see your hand, Carol. I'm gonna pause though, because I want to make a short update about our membership in the statewide coalition Housing Now, exclamation point, which kind of goes hand in hand with Tenants Together. So what's exciting to me is to see tenant-oriented legislation proposed and lobbying training going on. If anyone's interested in knowing more about it, we are part of CARA, we are part of EBHO. Those are associations that give us lobby training, but they have not tackled tenants' rights. And I just want to say that there is a steering committee meeting, which if anyone would like to sit in on, there's, usually I'm representing us, but I'm excited. And I did want to mention that they are asking for coordinated, for support on several bills having to do with tenant rights, like lowering the cap on rent increases. And it's a long haul. Another is to get rid of these algorithms, this computer software that landlords can use to basically figure out how much they should raise the rent. And in a sense, some of the algorithms amount to collusion because they're talking to each other and giving input and deciding, making sure no one's going to lose money or doesn't. There's more to it. So some of the bills to look out for, I do have a cheat sheet, but I'll keep this short. AB 749, AB 64, AB 20, and AB 45. And I will try to, if anyone's interested, let me know. I will try to send some information sheets or post them in some way. But if you're interested in joining the statewide coordinating committee for Housing Now, you can go to housingnow.org or California Housing Now, Google that, and sign up to receive notices and announcements. And one of the issues they are doing is organizing mobile home park residents against corporate buyouts, or even just selling out from under people who have very limited incomes. And the new owners expect to be able to raise rents. Currently, mobile home parks are considered an affordable housing option, but in fact, they're prime real estate targets right now because people, you can make so much money. And there's definitely an effort to get tenants organized so they can make a bid on the property or work with an organization in the state that helps mobile home park tenants become cooperatives, resident owned and governed. Okay, so those are the other And I will now pause with on our standing coalition partnerships and liaisons. And I see Nancy, you had your hand up. And then someone else who hasn't spoken. Nancy, why don't you go? And then Carol, you can please speak. Nancy,
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Betsy. I just wanted to ask, I'm doing something kind of on the down low. I'm trying to find or get in touch with residents in nursing homes through the resident council president, because I am considering a key temp against corporations in the nursing home industry that they've been threatening to shut down right now because they're not getting the funding that they want in order to siphon the money out. And so our corporation here, I discovered that every Friday they've been doing it for a very long time, but now there's a huge uptick in the numbers of people that they're billing who should not have a share of cost. They give them hand done bills with loads and loads of errors on it. So in case someone tries to take them to court for it or claim that it's fraud or abuse of an elder, financial fraud, they can say, this is what our bill looks like. That person is trying to extort us. That is a fake bill. And so they'll change little things like the city name in their address. They'll make the total incorrect and double bill on the bill and just all kinds of things. But there's red flags. And so I go around every Friday. I make room visits in the entire building of 99 rooms. I usually get into about, I would say 80% of them. But there's a huge uptick. This past Friday, I found 12 people got bills, fake bills. We call their insurance companies. And so I just want to make that quick announcement. Even if you're not able to connect with me, if someone gets a fake bill, just please spread the word. If you get a bill and you're not sure, does it make sense? Just call your insurance companies. If you've got Medi, call both. To find out what your share of cost is and get an itemized detailed bill. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. I want to call attention to the chat. Hopefully people can pursue that, but no, I'm not saying it right. You gave me the proper pronunciation, but G. Ariel Ox asked about what about redistricting and gerrymandering. So why don't we pick that up after Carol? I'm not making a report about the National Council, but I'll do that later. The National Gray Panthers Council often takes larger issues, but we haven't, as a chapter, taken up the governor's redistricting campaign. So, Carol Marasovic?
Yes, I want to address Measure W, County Measure W, but I wasn't clear where Nancy is from.
Nancy Nancy, you want to tell people how they can reach you and
yes,
where you are?
Absolutely. I am a long-term care skilled nursing home reform advocate and an aging and disability advocate. You can reach me at 760-314-5170. I do prefer text or email so that we can schedule a time. I've got about a dozen meetings or more each day. So Mondays and Tuesdays, I usually leave a few hours open.
So are we talking about California nursing home providers?
The entire state of California, yes. So my Nursing Homes Corporation owns 33 just under this particular nursing home company, but it's a very, very large conglomerate right up there with Shlomo Resnick.
So you actually are part of the nursing home industry, not an advocate?
No. I am an advocate for nursing home reform. I'm actually a resident in a nursing home. I've been here for just 2 months shy of 7 years.
Okay, because what you're identifying certainly seems like something that should be litigated if this is going on. Mass. So do you have an
Mhm.
attorney?
I do. His name is Sean O'Neill, and he is with Stalwart Legal Group.
Okay,
He
good.
has California's, in the history of California, the largest settlement suits for this type of thing, as well
Good.
as med mal stuff. So
Good,
thank you.
good. Because if you hadn't, I was going to recommend Catherine Stebner. So addressing Measure W, I just want to say it doesn't appear that Berkeley is going to get the money that it needs in terms of how the monies are being apportioned. It's
Well,
not going to get a substantial amount of money. I have to grasp the exact breakdown, but based on, I did this off the top of my head, maybe it was 26, 27 million that the city manager's office brought to city council that we need. Some of this is to sustain our current motel conversions, as well as it included um, housing retention monies and the small sites, etc. But certain things that we need in Berkeley just to sustain, but the amount of money that's being apportioned to
You're getting
Berkeley, Albany,
distorted. You're getting
Emeryville, or
distorted,
Berkeley,
Carol.
Alameda, Emeryville. I'm not sure what's considered north. Okay, so
Carol,
can you hear me now?
we're losing your integrity. So I think you should I think you've made make one sentence, say it as clearly and slowly as you can.
Oh, just that we will not receive as much money under County Measure W in Berkeley as was requested by the city manager and council. We won't be receiving what was requested. We have
So
proportionately.
Carol,
Yeah.
oh, my understanding, and maybe Arlene might recollect, but my understanding is that the Board of Supervisors was not funding cities. They're funding proposals from agencies.
No. Okay,
And so perhaps maybe Arlene could speak to that.
It's apportioned by areas, geographic areas.
And we have about a third. Yeah, Arlene, thank you.
It's by geographic areas and supposedly by the point of count. And so,
but not by cities itself. In other words, the city doesn't request specific money.
Well, the city has collected data on this information, so naturally it goes to follow. They might do it like the continuum and put all of the things under one resource so they know the amount that they actually need instead of just going individually. So service providers are individuals, but you need the number collectively under the city in order to request the money.
There is a geographic breakdown as to how much will be apportioned.
Yeah, it's 14. It is by city.
Oh, well, what I meant was, I misunderstood. I did not think cities were putting in their wish lists and they're given their wish list. I thought it was agencies allocated funds, but I may misunderstand that.
The city of Berkeley did submit it. It was approved through council. And that was back in, I'm trying to remember now. It was before the vote was taken, before the recess.
Okay, it's maybe you could put a link. I think you were going to email us to that request list or email me, but I never received it. So I think Arlene and I
think a lot of cities are not going to get what they actually applied for, Carol.
Yeah.
I just don't think that they are. I think we have high hopes, but it's just not going to happen, especially with a portion of the allocation. First of all, money in reserve, and then 20% of it is for essential services, and et cetera, et cetera. We only have a small window anyway, and it's basically for sustainability. It's not really
correct.
Additional.
And most of our stuff we asked for was sustainable. It also included some money needed for another Horizon type model. We're just not going to get the money. And I can tell you, as far as Prop 1 money, that's already been committed. So it's not good.
Well, from what I understand,
it's not good.
Depending on the model, the size of it, because the previous Board of Supervisors meeting, they were talking about rates, right? And so they were also talking about size of facilities. And so depending on the size of the facility, they might not fund it if it's not in compliance with what they're requesting. And so if it's a smaller facility, that's part of the window. It's like all of these criterias that they really mentioned. And also they asked for increases in the per bed unit, of which I don't necessarily believe they're getting. I think it might be a small percentage, but really not that much. And that's pretty much to cover everything. You know what I'm saying, Carol? Staffing and all things that encompasses producing this particular
Mhm.
service.
Okay, I'd
Mhm.
like to close out, even though I think we need to have a meeting with a much shorter speaker, even as important as it was, so that we can catch up on these campaigns and what liaisons are recommending, any action. Just so if we're okay with that, I would like to just wrap up the meeting with a reframing of the agenda by announcing that our next board meeting is September 3rd, Wednesday, 1:30. Carol and I will be calling that. And if you, we would like to be interviewing candidates for the board if you haven't had a chance to do that. But other members can be invited to the board meeting. It's currently on Zoom. I don't know exactly. Then there's a social that Carol Crooks often organizes, and that would be the September 10th, also Wednesday, and she'll get the word out. Our board member, Christy Martin, has offered her new apartment, new studio on the rooftop of on Telegraph Avenue area. So I think she and Carol Crooks will decide if that's feasible. And then our next speaker meeting in September is the 24th of September. So stay posted. Check out.
Please consider the parking when you choose a new
Yeah, that is one of the
venue, because
drawbacks.
2-hour parking just doesn't work.
Oh, and
almost every place in Berkeley is 2-hour parking.
Yeah, that is one of the advantages to Parker Street where Halicios is. So anyway, thank you, Julia. Are there any short, technically we should adjourn, but are there any very short headline announcements that members want to make right now? I mean, anyone who's here needs to make. Okay.
This is
So-
Arlene.
Yeah, Arlene.
I put it in the chat. We were talking about in-home support services,
Yeah.
and I put a link for National Domestic Workers Alliance, which encompasses nationally. They're trying to roll back wages, which each state has its own autonomy, so it's above the minimum wage. But they're trying to stop their overtime, and I think we really need to think about supporting them because they're already stressed enough, especially with Medi-Cal and Medicaid and Medicare under attack. Thank you.
Okay. They are part of the domestic workers hand in hand, and the domestic workers union is part of our LTSS for All coalition. And thank you for updating that aspect of the work. Domestic workers.
September 25th is likely to be the date of the Health Life Enrichment Committee meeting. They have it scheduled now. If they place on their agenda the item that was referred to them on Monday, this is regarding the clearing of the RVs off Dwight, which are actually really well kept up compared to some of the other encampments.
Oh my gosh.
So that was brought on the agenda, but that's because the neighbors in that area have been complaining for several years that they want all those RVs cleared out. So I'm not giving you the item in detail, but it was referred by the agenda committee instead of going to council. It was referred to the Health Life Enrichment Committee to discuss, which currently their meeting will be on Thursday, September 24th. I mean 25th, but that's subject somewhat to change, but that might be a meeting that people want to engage in. So the city, as I said, has not gotten everything, and what I thought was an excellent request put on County Measure W. I just want to say they are continuing to apply for other types of homeless services grants, one through this county, one through the state.
And how about
You know,
mental
and-
health? I know that was a big gap.
What-
Are they applying separately for mental health assistance or?
I'm just saying in terms of motel conversions, mental health
Okay.
is
All right.
another
Okay.
issue.
If they-
Mental health is still
If
under
they
the
do it
settlement
under
agreement.
Cal AIM, it might be a partial grant under Cal AIM because I think, what is it, Carol, 6 months that they will pay for housing through Cal AIM if it's associated with mental health. So
Which is all subject to change too. I
yeah,
mean, from the
exactly.
federal agreement, and there's
So-
also the Disability Rights California litigation settlement that was entered into a settlement now, is it almost 2 years ago now, that's on a 5-year agreement to implement county mobile crisis and peer respites, which to me isn't progressing very much, but that might be an interesting speaker to get to Gray Panthers also to talk about how that's panning out. It's got a court monitor. The county is supposed to fully implement it in 5 years. That's based on people being sent to Santa Rita and John George.
Carol,
Thank you.
I'm
Thank you.
sorry. I'm
Too
going to adjourn the
Thank you.
meeting for
Okay.
all members. We're down to 13 people.
Okay.
And if people want to have that conversation about the details on what's going on with homeless issues on that team, stay on or introduce other topics of conversation. So meeting adjourned. We'll gather
Mental health.
again in
Okay.
September 24th. Thanks.
Thanks, Betsy.
Okay.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It was
Thanks,
just 'cause mental health was
Leonzo.
great.
Great to. You want to come on for 1 minute, Leon, so we can see your face?
Oh,
If
okay.
it's still the same face.
It's probably
you.
different.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Really
Yeah,
great
yeah.
to see you. I see, All
Great
right.
to see you, Leo. Great to see
Okay,
everybody.
same here, Arlene. Thank you.
All right. And Robert, any announcements from our treasurer?
Not really.
Okay.
No, not really.
We got $500 from the Ecology Center for our participation in the disaster relief. I saw that. And also thank you everyone who's renewed their dues. We even have a few
Okay.
new members. Sorry,
I-
Robert, I'm jumping on your bandwagon.
I don't even know when I'm supposed to renew.
We'll let you know.
Yesterday, Arlene, yesterday.
Oh, okay. 10 lashes with a wet noodle for me.
Right.
I do know that everyone here, I think, has renewed their dues recently, and thank you, Julia, Helen, Norma. You even were early, but
That's
it's always-
right. Forgot.
I think so. We'll Carol. I hope who has left us. I see and Miss Cecilia are supposed to be kind of managing our membership rosters, but we've had some slowdowns on my side. Katie Gluck.
Well, she's been
Came
at
and
all kind
went.
of meetings, so
Came and went.
Cecilia's been at all kind of meetings, so
I know, but
Yeah.
she doesn't do emails, so yeah. All right.
So-
And pen and paper.
Oh,
and tomorrow's I know, right?
What
Pen and
is that?
paper.
What?
She's sweet.
Put pen to paper. Put pen to
Yeah.
paper, right?
She's sweet though. I love her. She's a sweet woman.
she makes phone calls. So
Yeah.
And
How's
tomorrow's the
how's
Faith and Justice breakfast in Walnut Creek. So I don't generally go, but kept getting questions to go, so I'm gonna go.
Oh, good.
But she's
My
probably gonna be there.
are
my
you
church
going,
was
Helen?
looking for somebody to go. I might hone in on that. I just need to figure out how to get there. So if I do, if they still need somebody and I volunteer, I'll look out for you, Arlene and Cecilia, if she goes.
It's a yes in Walnut Creek, so they made the arrangements. They even got a ride for me to
Wow.
bring me in and take me out. When you start getting older, become an elder, they treat you nicely.
Well, that's good. Well, I'm glad you're going to be there.
Well, this is my
Yeah.
first time ever going, so
Oh, cool.
yeah, this is my first time ever go. I don't know if I don't do well so much with all of the sometimes with all of the socializing and politricking, as I call it.
No, I get you. I'm similar to the same. I just like to have conversations with people and exchange information, not do the rest of it. I hear
Yeah,
you.
and like kind of get things going.
Right.
That's my whole
Yeah.
point.
Get the
It's like, how
community.
can we get things going? All of this talking around about stuff, I'm like, I'm freaking talked out. Come on, people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know what? The thing about it is everybody has all of these, $64,000 words and they use this lingo, and you know what? We're going down, swirling
How
around the
about,
toilet.
how
So
about, how
Yeah.
about that? How about that 90% of the people in China live in their own house, in their houses that they own? Is that difficult to understand?
what's difficult to understand is whether it's in the city or whether it's in the outskirts. Look how many people are in China, because I don't know.
90% of the people in China, wherever they are, that's 90%. And we're talking about them owning their house. They don't pay rent or mortgage to live there.
I would
Where,
love,
where,
pardon me, Norma,
that's okay. That's
when you're
okay.
done.
No, I'm
I'd like to know
always,
more. I
I,
think not here, not now, but it's worth investigating how they've
there's a
structured.
headline. You can look up a headline by saying 90% of the people in China own their own homes, and you will get back information on the internet.
It says
Details.
it says 87% in urban areas and 96% in rural areas. I'm looking it up as we're talking.
Good for you. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. It's not hard for me to get stuff. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Um,
Well, I'm saying if you want to ask me anything, I just get the headlines and I blast it out. Hooray! Because I'm
well,
such a backer of communism, and so is Putin. And people don't get that that's what's driving Putin. Putin got into the KGB because he backed the Russian Revolution so hard. The morality of the Russian Revolution was so appealing to him that he wanted to get in and advance it. And that's where he comes from. And so now he's trying to work it out in the face of being slapped down by so many institutions in the world. And the propaganda, you get the propaganda. You got to hate him. You got to hate the system and all that. And we're on the wrong side of that issue, the wrong side.
listen to this, Betsy. The government now provides affordable housing by subsidized commercial housing purchases or by offering low rent public social housing to middle and low income families. At the same time, it relies on the private commercial housing market to meet the needs of higher income groups. That seems to be the way that they do it. Now, the interesting thing to me when I hear about China, when I hear about Barcelona, when I hear about other European or other countries within the Pacific Rim, one of the things that I really recognize is their governments have designed themselves to do this. Our government has not.
No,
No, we did have social housing
I'm not
one
saying
time.
that we
I'm
didn't.
just saying, no, I know. I'm just saying that it was gorgeous. It was very crowded and all of that. It was a bunch of Jews living with 47 people in an apartment and committing communism because the Jewish migration ended up in transit through the New York social housing and all
the
that.
the biggest co-ops in the earliest
Are
co-ops.
from New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Finns created the first, they're a tiny blip.
Right,
But
right.
definitely the socialists and several unions.
Well, they transported their ideas and their way of living
Communists, yes.
to here in Turtle Island, for lack of a better way to say it. Like, I grew up in Brooklyn, right? And so I came up in Williamsburg, and where I came up from, the other side of it was the Sephardic Jews, right? And Hasidic Jews, right? And so they transplanted their way of life to where they live at. Their schools, everything that they did.
Did they build cooperative apartment buildings?
Yeah, they actually did.
No, they didn't build them, did they? I don't think
No,
so.
I'm
They
No,
couldn't.
no, they got assistance from the government, but they did have
I'm
some
just
buildings.
saying they utilize a system that was in place.
Yeah.
And they live very cooperatively, and I
It's
know that
very
because
Jewish. That's what the problem is that the revolution is so Jewish.
Well,
well,
there's definitely more than the tiny percent of the national population that's Jewish, but absolutely part of this social housing, the history comes back to that kind of solidarity. But I just say I was really relieved to read that the Black Panthers 10-point program is still supported, and number 4, if you go to the second sentence, is about housing cooperatives, like owning collectively, which is a little different than other kinds of home ownership, but I was proud that they, I was glad to know they supported that.
The interesting thing with that is first of all, we work very siloed. We all have it collectively. We all need the same things, right? But we're not working together for the same things, and that's part of the problem. Some of the things
well, the Reverend comes along and says it's a moral issue. It's not a moral issue. We could all be going around being very nice and still be fucked in the, because the system does it to us. So the idea that to call it a moral issue, and God and all of them guys, I love that when they talk about the fairy in the sky. Yeah.
Well,
you know what? I'm going to tell you, I'm just respectful of whomever. I agree to disagree. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah,
I respect each person's opinion, and I do not, poo-poo on it, for lack of a better way to say it. I just really try to be respectful of people, and I try to be respectful of their opinion, whether I agree with it or not. And I mean, that's just part of being civil.
The trouble is it diverts people's ability to do the work about it. If they're going to go to church and pray about it instead of get out in the streets with everybody.
Well, this is one of the things that I find with and I was just at a meeting, which was interesting, with Indivisible and Mobilize and the various groups like that. And one of the things that I brought up is that I was not a community organizer, a community activist. I was a corporate girl for many decades. And when I came to California and life changed, I became something different. And so with that being said, what I find is that there's a lack of compassion and empathy among just humanity. Wait a minute.
They don't get the opportunity.
Let me finish speaking, Norma. Let me finish speaking, Norma. I'm not talking about the movement. I'm just talking about people, because we don't know what condition people are in. And we're yelling at them to do this, that, or the other, but we don't know if they have the capability to do the very thing that we're requesting. So my thing, that's what I talk about, just being civil with people, because we do need to have more compassion and empathy. Just because someone might not be able to do exactly what it is someone feels that they need to do.
I would be a melted puddle if I had any more compassion. The things that are going on now.
But and you have your own history and you have your own makeup.
I know.
So
I think everybody is like that. Okay. They need the opportunity to be compassionate, and they don't get it. They get diverted by things like go pray in the church for one, or whatever it is. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people that are not behaving well. but they need the opportunity to behave well for everybody, to help
And
everybody.
once again, you're making this statement based on a privilege that you have that other people might not have. And that's what I'm talking about, compassion and empathy, Norma. I'm not talking about whether they pray, whether they're an atheist, agnostic, or anything else. What I'm saying is that some people have the privilege and the opportunity to participate that way. Not everyone does.
My
And they may
And so
think
with
you
that,
don't
I'm just saying we need a little
that.
compassion. We need a little bit more compassion, and we need a little bit more empathy for those who might not have access. That's
all
all I'm
right,
saying.
she's blowing you kisses, Arlene.
I love her too.
It's 7:02. Somehow we have to have room for these kinds of debates and discussions, and not debates, but back and forth, so we can be stronger together.
I backed off
I'll
of the
leave it at
group
that.
because they were just pushing me too much,
Which
not knowing.
one?
And I'm not mentioning
Oh, okay,
any
okay,
names.
got it.
What I'm
got
saying
it.
is that
Yeah.
I had to step back because I have my own thing that I'm going through, and because they see I have a skill set, and I always try to bring whatever skills that I have. I seen Helen mentioned it, utilizing her skill sets to do the work, right? But if you're going through something and your plate is full, you might not have the capacity, but somebody on the outside doesn't necessarily know that.
Right.
And so
What are you going
I had to
through?
put up, wait a minute, I had to put up boundaries in order to protect myself and get my own self better. I'm going through something as we're speaking. That's why I had to step back.
Can we help you at all?
Actually, I wish you could. I wish you could.
Oh, Arlene.
I wish you could. I'm going through something and it's kind of depressing me a little bit. It's stressful. I got love and, but it is what it is. Sometimes we have to just walk alone. You know what I'm saying?
Would you tell Betsy what it is? Yeah, I know you're not going to tell just me.
I'm not telling Betsy either.
Tell us, mate.
I love Betsy. I love all of you guys. And you know what? I thank you so much. But I'm going to tell you, when you're going through health issues, there's nothing nobody can do for you. You just have to go through the health issues.
I want to know what they are because I
sending
sending
you love there, Arlene.
Thank you so much, Helen.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
But
what I'm saying is there's so much going on. We're swirling around. There's so many things we need to be doing. But if you have the capacity to do it, then that's all well and good. But if you don't have the capacity, you know what? I believe in just giving somebody some grace. That's all.
Remember when I told the group that I went to the doctor at one point where she looked up at me and said, "What have you been doing?" She was looking at my figures, the numbers from the blood, whatever test. "What have you been doing?" And I said, "Well, I did start taking Coumadin." She says, "I wrote a paper on that," she said, about how Coumadin can help. The cancer was down, was recessing, whatever, on its own because that was the only other thing I was doing different. So I have a lot of health stuff. So
I'm a believer in holistics and non-traditional, what they call non-traditional medicine. I'm a believer because I've been bringing my numbers down and working toward getting healthy. So thank you so much, Norma.
Well, if we could talk and you want me to think about stuff, you could do that. I've been doing that health thing for 50 years, ever since right before I had my daughter.
Thank you so much for the offer. I appreciate the love I'm getting. But I do. But you know what? I really just had to take a time out. I'm supposed to be going to DC September. I don't know if I'm going to be going. I'm supposed to be going to I don't know if it's Palm Springs or somewhere in LA in October. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go, but we'll see what happens because there's work to be done.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work to be done.
Thank you, Arlene.
There's a lot of work.
And I love Coumadin is something. It's not Coumadin, it's turmeric. Okay.
Oh, I have that in my cabinet.
Okay.
And that has brought my numbers down, by the way.
I better quintuple my doses. I eat it
Well,
regularly.
be careful too. You gotta
Gosh.
watch
Yeah,
liver
you
with
can't do too much.
There you
You
go.
need,
I made
you
that
need,
mistake
you,
one
you
time.
need,
Ooh.
you need as much as there is in a pill and a little bit of ground black
pepper. There you go.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
We're
All right,
yeah.
maybe we'll have a health exchange, but we might be fighting
should.
about that.
Well, the
Look,
thing
I'll
about it,
just-
when you start aging, and because of the way our country is run, a lot of our bodies are poisoned by the
That is
community that we live in. That's just a
too
reality.
true. Too
Genetically
true.
modified food,
Not
we're not
mine.
eating from the originals. We're not eating from original seeds. They're like stored somewhere in Antarctica or wherever they got it stored at. So we eating all this genetically modified so that they can produce more and more and more longer shelf life.
You
So
gotta
we
watch,
having
you gotta
illnesses that
watch
we didn't have before.
late night TV. They do something that's not Afropop, it's other stuff. People have been going into Africa and doing little things. They've been making usable threads out of garbage, plastic, all kinds of developments that a bunch of white people totally dedicated to changing the paradigm have gone into areas, and they're retrieving land and animals
And resources and all manner of things, yeah, all manner of things. And but this is the thing. Here we are, we're an elder group, and we talk about the things that impact us.
We are youth. We
Yeah,
have some younger members,
yeah,
aspiring
we do,
elders.
but for the most part,
We
it's the
all
Gray
have, yeah.
Panthers. Okay, so all I'm saying is this: as I age, what I found is that I had to learn more about taking care of myself.
Yeah.
But I find when you're older and you're doing all of this work outside in your community, you expend a tremendous amount of physical and mental time and energy. And so sometimes we're not taking the best care of our own selves because we're expending so much doing stuff outside. I never hear anybody talk about, okay, a lot of us got all kind of issues. They have diabetes, high blood pressure, they're taking lipid, they're taking all this medication. They want to check your kidney every 2 years because the medication they're giving you is actually,
Yeah.
deteriorating your body.
Yeah.
And so, but I think it's important, like, I don't call it self-care, but I think we need me. I'm thinking about taking better care. And I speak to a lot of people that I know in my age group because they got like their whole shelf is filled up with, kind of drugs and medication, but everybody's driving, so they're driving through fast food. I don't eat fast food, and they're driving through fast food, right? And they don't walk, they don't move, and that impacts us. The older we get, we slow down. And so, like, to me, that's a conversation. And I understand the world is the world. What's going on is not going to stop today. It's going to keep going. It's been going on.
I told you
You
I'm
know.
90, right? I told
Yes,
you I'm
ma'am.
90. Kaiser evidently is taking the right care of me. And that's a richness that not everybody can enjoy.
Exactly. And, I say I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
No.
You know what I mean?
Friends, I'm gonna thank you so much for getting, into the heart
Hey,
of us.
good.
And you're on vacation. You need to be getting that back out there by the
Enjoy
pool,
that
honey.
Well, it's 7 o'clock and the fog has rolled into Washington, D.C., which is unheard of. But I'm gonna leave. Do you want me to leave the Zoom room open? I'll leave the Zoom room open.
Environmental justice. I'm not. Anyway, let me stop.
But my heart, thank you each and every one for being
Have a good one.
who you are and what you're doing.
Bye, my darling.
Love y'all.
Enjoy your trip. Enjoy your trip.
It's
Jump
just
in
starting.
the pool in the fog.
Tomorrow
Make it
I get to lounge around it again.
There you go.
Yeah.
Have a
Thanks.
good one.
Thanks. We'll have
Yeah, go ahead
updates.
on, Betsy. Go ahead on.
All
We're
right.
gonna let you
I'm
go.
gonna
Bye. Oh, wait.
everyone's gone dark, but they haven't left. So
Okay, I'm leaving.
okay. Then
Bye-bye.
I'm gonna turn everyone else off once we're agreed nobody's gonna be talking more. So
Okay, bye-bye.
Rains is, yeah, there we go. I'm
Bye,
gonna,
Rains. Bye, Betsy.
bye.